Hello and welcome to this new video from the Sauer Academy. Today we are back here in Munich, this time with Justus at the range. And as you can already see, today it's all about the standing position, but today it's explicitly about the correction variance. In other words, when Justus's 0 point is not correct. He has set himself up so far, has done a 0 point check, and now something doesn't fit. It's too high, too low. How can we improve the whole thing so that the 0 point is really on the 10 in a tension-free exhaled state? That is the goal. And now let's just assume, Justus, you are too far to the right or too far to the left. So you've done a 0 point check and realized that you're not quite there. So now the question is, what options do you have? What do you do then?
One option would be using my foot. Well, I can go backwards with both foots a bit. The foot position actually remains the same. And then, if I walk backwards now, I move further to the left on the target. Of course, I have to do a 0 point check so that I can see whether I'm on it or not. And then I can either correct it further or it fits. A second possibility would also be that I turn my position. In other words, I move one foot forward a little backwards with the other foot. Now I'm standing there turned. But my position and feeling should not change. That's very important.
Exactly, that's very important what Justus explains, that he then either does this forward and backward, so moving your feet parallel. Of course, you can't do this indefinitely because otherwise you'll end up standing next to your neighbor. The second variant is that it turns completely. This way, imagine you're standing on a disc who is turning. As he has already said, the feeling should not change at all. You mustn't twist yourself because we want to shoot without tension again and stand relaxed on the target.
In other words, you simply make an honest 0 point check and everything must feel exactly the same as before. And then you look through and then it fits.
If it doesn't fit, what's the last thing you can always do if you say, man, that's not working, I don't get on the target?
Well, I go out of the position and build everything from scratch again. Maybe I made some stupid mistake beforehand.
I also often recommend, or when you go out, just open your jacket again, open your pants again, walk around for 2 or 3 steps, maybe have a quick chat with your coach. Yes, slide the underwear again, because he's wearing functional clothing underneath, so that you can say that maybe something has slipped, something doesn't fit, adjust everything again, refasten the jacket, fasten the pants properly, yes. Maybe there's something small that's pinched, and then reassemble again, check your 0 point again. And then we can continue. Okay, so now we've already had right and left. There are 2 variants. Maybe there's one more thing you shouldn't do under any circumstances, and that is that you can go into the position. Once I've set up my position and I've actually found it and everything feels as always, it's not a correction variant that I suddenly shift a lot to the right and left with the elbow. The whole position changes, the feeling is lost, and the rifle might even suddenly tip over. Never correct with your elbow. I look for the point where I put my elbow on my hip at the very beginning when I'm building my position, when I set up my rifle. But when I have my settings, I always leave it in the same place.
For a competition, there's only one point where you put your elbow.
Okay, then we've got the right, we've got the left corrections. Now there's the question of high and low. What do you like to do when you're high or low from the 0 point?
When I'm a bit too high, then I can go forward a little bit here with my hand rest. Only in the millimeter range, of course. And that's what I do here with the hand rest. Because I have an edge here and I always go in here with my finger. I just like it when my hand always feels the same. That's why I slip with the whole hand rest. If I go forward with the hand rest, then my rifle just goes all the way down. In the same way, if I push it backwards, it goes all the way up. The tip of the rifle.
Now, you're now doing this completely with the hand rest because you want to have the orientation there. Is that how you do it with the air rifle, or how do you do it with the air rifle?
I have one of those stickers on the rifle, and that's where I always orient my hand. Then you can either push it to the front or push it all the way to the back.
With an air rifle. So you either put your hand a little bit further or more back, and that is, you can say, not very much. Because if I slip too much here, of course, my feeling changes again. The support arm might even become unstable. It's supposed to support but not hold. I don't want to do any holding work, and that's why it can't be too much. and then you look for some kind of orientation on the rifle or make one for yourself. You can also make a mark with a pen that you can see somewhere where my hand is, so that I basically always have the same position, and then I can easily adjust the height. Okay, what other options do you have if the height doesn't fit?
A second point would of course be to adjust the butt plate. I simply use my Allen key here, then I undo the screw. If I'm now too low, I simply push it up a few millimeters. And if I'm now too high, I simply push it down a little. And then of course check my 0 point again, whether the 0 position is correct.
It is perhaps important here that you really don't adjust too much. It only ever really moves in the millimeter range. Once you've adjusted everything, you can't adjust it by several centimeters. You would change the whole relations of the rifle, the orientation of the upper body and the head position. If I adjusted too much, he wouldn't be able to look into it properly. You would have to adjust a lot more. What you can do, of course, is to say, I'll make a combination of butt plate and hand. Exactly, that would be another option. All right, what other actions can you take to fix that issue? Do you have any other ideas or solutions in mind?
The third point would be, of course, that I then move back with my back foot. If I am too low 1 centimeter, or 1.5 centimeters backwards, then I can push my hips further forward, and I end up higher on the target. The same applies the other way around. If I move my back foot a little more together, then the rifle goes down.
Exactly. So he simply changes his foot position, so to speak. Basically, he already has a foot position that is always the same. You have a yardstick lying there. I would also recommend that whenever he says, I found the position I always want to have, you measure it out from toe to toe, and then of course you can make very small corrections. So if you go further apart, you go up. If you move further together, you move down again. But it can't be that at some point it's very close together. That makes no sense at all, because there's a certain surface area again.
That also changes the feeling of position at some point.
Exactly. And some people don't like to move their foot. They say, I don't want to change my foot at all. There are also shooters like that. They just make the corrections at the top. So just try it. That's it, I think. There are no other options, and you shouldn't press or lift anything. Apart from that, you have 3 options. We hope you enjoy trying them out. See you next time at the Sauer Academy. Bye.